The door didn't close. It slammed, so hard the sound snapped through the rainy street and bounced off the parked cars like a warning shot. For one breath, the world went quiet. Then my oldest son's porch light flipped off, and I was left standing there in the dark with rain running down my face and a pharmacy bag digging into my fingers. No hug, no, "Are you okay?" No, "Come in." Just a deadbolt sliding into place like he was locking me out of his life. I stared at the door a second too long, because part of me still couldn't believe a child I raised could do that without even flinching. But the rain didn't care about my disbelief. It soaked through my cardigan, crept into my shoes, and made my knees shake. Some of it real cold, some of it the performance I'd rehearsed. In my hand, I held the solution he thought erased guilt. A folded bill, not warmth, not safety, money. The kind you hand to someone you don't want touching your life. I tightened my fingers around it until the edges creased deeper. One child. One rejection. And the night was still young. I turned away without looking back, because if I looked back, I might have done something undignified. I might have begged. I might have cried right there on the porch like a woman who had run out of dignity. And I refused to give them that, because this wasn't just about being sick. This was about finding out who still had a heart when I looked like a burden. The first slam had come from Graham, my oldest, the one who loved image more than truth. He'd opened the door just long enough to see my pale face, my trembling hands, the discharge papers peeking out of the pharmacy bag. His eyes weren't worried. They were calculating. "Mom!" "Not here," he'd hissed, glancing past my shoulder at the neighbors' windows like my sickness was gossip. Then he shoved the door shut and locked it. The sound echoed inside my ribs like a crack. Now I was walking toward the second house, rainwater slipping down my ankles, my joints aching, my breath shallow on purpose. The second door belonged to Tessa, my oldest daughter, the one who curates her life like a catalog, the one who posts family first captions online and then acts like family is an inconvenience offline. Her driveway glowed with tasteful lights. A wreath sat on the door like a staged smile. Everything looked perfect, which meant everything inside was fragile. I rang the bell. Once, twice. A camera above the door blinked. Tessa answered through the intercom first, because touching the door handle would have made the moment too real. "Can I help you?" Her voice came out clean and bored. "It's me," I said, letting my voice tremble. "Mom." A pause. Then the door cracked open just a few inches. Tessa's eyes swept over me like she was assessing damage to her reputation. "Oh my God," she whispered, not with concern, with embarrassment. "What happened to you?" "I'm sick," I rasped, and forced a cough that sounded ugly enough to sell it. "And I don't have money right now. I just need one night." One. Tessa's gaze snapped past me to the street, to curtains, to the possibility of witnesses. "Are you serious?" she hissed. "People will see you. People. Not come inside. Not let me get you a blanket. Just people. Please," I said, and the word tasted like humiliation. Tessa flinched like my desperation was contagious. "I can't," she said fast. "The kids are asleep. Paul has work early, and this is not safe." "Not safe?" I repeated, almost laughing. She lowered her voice to a sharp whisper. "If you really lost everything, you need a shelter. Not my front porch." Then she did something that made my stomach turn. She slid out an envelope. Already ready, already prepared. Like she'd imagined this moment before and decided what kind of daughter she wanted to be. Cash. A note. A phone number for a resource center. "Here," she said. "Take it. And please, don't come back like this." Like this. 2 children, 2 rejections, 2 direct stabs to the heart of a mother who had spent decades saying yes. I walked away before she could see my hands shaking. By the time I reached the third house, the rain had soaked through everything. The discharge papers in the pharmacy bag were soft at the edges. My hair clung to my neck. My bones ached. The third door belonged to Briggs, my second son, the golden boy, the one who wraps control in the language of help. I knocked. The porch light snapped on immediately. Briggs opened the door only halfway, like he was afraid my misery might seep into his clean world. "Mom," he said, already scanning the street behind me. I let my knees wobble, let my voice crack. "I'm sick," I whispered. "And I'm broke. I can't be alone tonight." His jaw tightened. Behind him, warmth, dinner smells, spotless floors, and a framed photo of him shaking hands with someone important. He didn't invite me in. He exhaled like I was a problem. "Mom, I have people here," he muttered. "This isn't the time." "People?" I repeated, and something inside me went cold. His eyes flicked toward the hallway like he was measuring how much damage I could do to his image. Then he reached into his pocket. Not for compassion, for money. He pressed a folded bill into my hand like he was feeding a stray. "Get a motel," he said. "Tomorrow we'll talk." It wasn't enough for a decent night anywhere. And the moment my fingers closed around it, Briggs relaxed, like he'd completed his duty and could now sleep with a clean conscience. The door clicked shut. No goodbye. No, text me when you're safe. Just the deadbolt sliding into place. 3 doors, 3 betrayals. And now there was only one left. The 4th door belonged to Evan, my youngest. The one the family calls soft, because he chose a modest life and didn't chase status like a starving animal. His little house sat far from the wealthy district on a street where nobody cared what you drove. And by his side was Nora, the daughter-in-law I had hated for years. Not because she was cruel, because she was poor, because she was blunt, because she didn't smile on command, because she never begged for approval from people like me. I reached their porch. No camera, no intercom, just a simple doorbell. I pressed it once. Footsteps rushed inside. The door swung open. Nora appeared in a worn sweater, hair pulled back, eyes instantly wide with alarm. She didn't scan the street for neighbors. She didn't look at my clothes with disgust. She grabbed my elbow like I mattered. "Oh my God, come in," she said, voice fierce. "Now." Warmth hit my face. The smell of soup. Real life. Evan appeared behind her, eyes wet before he even spoke. "Mom, what happened?" he asked, hands already on my shoulders, checking me like he was looking for injuries. They didn't hesitate. They opened the door like it was the only right thing to do. That night, sitting on their worn sofa with a blanket over my knees, I heard Nora whisper in the kitchen. "We don't have enough," she said softly, "but we can sell the rings." Evan's voice cracked. "Nora, no, yes," she insisted. "Your mother needs us." They didn't know I could hear them. They didn't know who I really was. My burner phone vibrated once in my pocket. Silent. Mr. Hale, attorney. 9 a.m. confirmed. Documents ready. Security ready. And when morning came, when my lawyer arrived at this tiny house with the papers and the security team, Graham, Tessa, and Briggs wouldn't look smug anymore. They'd look terrified. Because they were about to learn what it costs to slam a door on the woman who built their world. Let me take you back to the beginning. To the exact moment I decided to do this test. To the night I realized I had created monsters with my own kindness. 3 weeks earlier, I was sitting alone in a hospital room staring at a ceiling tile with a coffee stain shaped like regret. The nurse tried to soften her words, but her eyes didn't lie. "Ma'am," she said, "your blood pressure spiked again. You need someone checking on you. You shouldn't be alone. Again." I went home with discharge papers, a bottle of pills, and a sentence that followed me into every quiet corner of my house. "You shouldn't be alone if this keeps happening." My husband had been gone for 11 years. The quiet had become normal, but that week it felt predatory, like it was waiting for me to slip. 2 days later, Graham arrived first. Not with soup, with a lecture. He stood in my kitchen, hands in his coat pockets, looking around like my home was already turning into his responsibility. "You scared people," he said. Notice he didn't say, "You scared me." "You need a plan." "A plan?" I repeated. Graham pulled out his phone and started listing options like I was a project. "I can get a service to check on you," he said. "Nurse visits. And we should talk about your accounts. My accounts. Not my fear, not my loneliness. My accounts." The next day, Tessa came. She brought flowers, expensive ones that looked good on a table, and she took pictures of them. "Smile, Mom," she said, snapping a photo for her story. "Everyone's been asking. Everyone. Always everyone." She sat down and lowered her voice like she was discussing a scandal. "Look," she said, "if you have another incident, this can't turn into a situation. We have the kids, we have our name, we have our name, not you." Then Briggs showed up. Briggs came with a folder. A real folder. Tabs. Printed pages. A pen clipped neatly on top like he was ready to sign my life away. "I've been thinking," he said. "That phrase should come with a warning label." He slid the folder across my table. "Power of attorney," he announced. "Medical, financial, just in case." My stomach dropped. "In case of what?" I asked. "In case you get confused," he said smoothly. "In case you fall. In case someone takes advantage of you." He said it like protection, but his hand stayed on the folder like possession. I read the first page. His name, his authority, his signature line waiting like a trap. Then I noticed a second document tucked underneath. A transition plan, assisted living, a facility near his neighborhood, a list of my assets typed out like inventory, my house, my accounts, my late husband's insurance. I looked up slowly. You already decided where you'd put me, I said. Briggs sighed, irritated at being seen clearly. Mom, don't make this dramatic, he muttered. This is practical. Practical. That word turns a person into a problem. I pushed the folder back. No, I said. His face tightened. You're being stubborn. I'm being careful, I corrected. After he left, I sat alone in my kitchen staring at the empty spot where that folder had been. And something ugly hit me. My children weren't talking about my health the way family talks about health. They were talking about my health the way people talk about liability. That night, Evan called. Evan didn't lead with solutions. He didn't lead with a folder. He said, Mom, are you scared? I didn't even realize I was until he asked. My throat tightened. Yes, I whispered. Evan's voice softened. Then you shouldn't be alone, he said. Not because you're a burden, because you're my mom. That sentence cracked something inside me, because it was the first time anyone made me feel like a person, not a problem. Evan told me he'd come by after work, and when he arrived, Nora was with him. Nora, my youngest son's wife. The one I'd judged since the day Evan introduced her. Not wealthy enough, not polished enough, not the kind of woman I imagined for my son. She stood in my doorway holding a container of homemade soup, nervous but steady. Ma'am, she said, Evan told me you weren't feeling well. I made this. Small gesture, but real. Tessa brought flowers to photograph. Nora brought soup to feed me. Graham brought strategy. Nora brought warmth. And the shame hit hard. I had treated Nora like she wasn't enough, while she was quietly doing the only thing that mattered. After they left, I opened my safe, not to admire jewelry, to face reality, my will, my directives, my accounts. I didn't fear death. I feared losing control of my life while still alive. So I called Mr. Hale, my attorney. He answered on the first ring. What happened? He asked, instantly alert. I need the truth, I replied. Not the performance, the truth. A pause. You want to test them, he said carefully. Yes, I admitted, with a moment they can't rehearse. A moment where money can't fix it. A moment where reputation won't save them. A moment where the only thing left is character. He tried to talk me out of it. It's risky, he warned, emotionally and physically. I'm not asking permission, I said. I'm asking for safeguards. So we built a plan like a legal operation. A burner phone, a driver nearby, security watching from a distance. Props that would make the lie believable. Discharge papers, a pharmacy bag, a pill organizer. And we chose the perfect night. A night when Graham, Tessa, and Briggs would be most afraid of being seen doing the wrong thing. Because the test wasn't, do you love me? The test was, do you love me when loving me cost you something? And when the rain came and I knocked, sick and broke, they would show me exactly who they were. And in the morning, the truth would show them exactly what that costs. By midnight, the rain had softened into a steady drizzle, but the cold inside me had gotten worse. Not the sick, I was pretending. The other kind. The kind you feel when 3 of your children look at you and see a problem, not a mother. I sat on Evan's old sofa wrapped in a blanket that smelled like cheap detergent and honest work. The living room was small, cluttered in the way real homes are. Books on a side table, a folded laundry basket in the corner, a chipped mug drying near the sink. No designer candles, no staged perfection, just warmth. Nora set a bowl of soup in front of me, steam rising like something sacred. She didn't ask me to explain myself again. She didn't make me earn kindness with a speech. She just fed me. Evan hovered nearby, unable to sit still. Every few minutes he'd glance at my face, my hands, my breathing, like he was trying to measure if I was slipping away. Mom, he whispered, are you in pain? I forced my voice soft and shaky. I'm just tired. And I meant it. Because pretending to be unwanted is exhausting when it stops feeling like pretending. Nora crouched in front of me, her eyes sharp and steady. You're freezing, she said. I'm fine, I tried. She shook her head, the way women do when they decide your excuses don't matter. No, she said simply. You're not. She walked to the hallway and returned with dry sweatpants and a sweatshirt. Plain, soft, worn from use. She held them out to me without making it a big deal. Change, she said. The bathroom's right there. I'll warm more water. I stared at her, my throat tightening, because my daughter had looked at me like a stain. And this woman I had disliked for years looked at me like a human being. I stood slowly, using the wall like I was weak, letting the illusion do its work. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection in the mirror. Gray face, damp hair, thin lips. A woman who looked disposable. For the first time, the question turned on me like a blade. If I were truly sick and truly broke, how long would I survive in my own family? When I came back out, Nora had placed a heating pad behind my lower back and another blanket over my knees. Evan sat on the edge of the coffee table, elbows on his thighs, eyes red. I called Graham earlier, he admitted quietly. My chest tightened. Why? Because I thought, maybe he didn't understand, Evan said. Maybe he'd come around. Nora's mouth tightened. She didn't speak yet, but the room shifted, like she already knew the answer. Evan swallowed hard. He told me, Evan's voice cracked. He told me not to drag him into drama. He said if you're really broke, you should go through proper channels. Proper channels. Like love is a form you submit. Evan wiped his face with his sleeve, embarrassed by tears. Tessa texted me, he added. She asked if there were cameras. She asked if the neighbors saw you. I closed my eyes. 3 children. 3 different words. Same meaning. Not my problem. Nora kept moving around the tiny kitchen, trying to act normal. But the tension in her shoulders told the truth. Eat, she said, sliding toast toward me. Slowly, I ate. And in that small act, me eating her soup, wearing her sweatshirt, something inside me started to break. Because I remembered every time I had treated Nora like she wasn't enough. Every time I had smiled politely while thinking, my son could have done better. Every time I had stayed quiet while Graham and Tessa made jokes about Evan's little life. I had watched my youngest son become a target in his own family. And I had done nothing. After dinner, Evan insisted I take the bedroom. It's not up for discussion, he said. Nora didn't argue. She simply nodded, like she'd already decided she would sacrifice comfort without needing applause for it. No, I protested, the performance still in me. I can sleep here. I don't want to. Mom, Evan said, voice firm. You're staying in the bed. Nora brought me a pillow that looked too flat to be comfortable and smiled anyway. It's not fancy, she said, but it's clean. Clean. I almost laughed at the simplicity of it. My other children had homes that looked like showrooms, and none of them had offered me a bed. I lay down, staring at the ceiling of that small room, and listened to the house settle. In the living room, I heard the soft creak of the sofa as Evan and Nora made space for each other. Then, quiet voices, the way couples speak when they think no one can hear. We can't afford this, Evan whispered, not resentful, afraid. Nora's voice came back calm, like she'd already done the math. I know. A pause. Then the sound of a drawer opening. My stomach tightened. We can sell the rings, Nora said. Evan's breath caught. Nora. No. Yes, she insisted, not dramatic, determined. It's just metal. Your mom needs food. She needs medicine. She needs stability. Evan's voice broke. Those rings are the only nice thing we own. Nora's reply came soft and lethal. Then, we'll own love instead. I pressed my hand over my mouth so I wouldn't make a sound, because my richest children had offered me folded bills like a stray. And this woman, the one I had treated like she was beneath me, was willing to sell the symbol of her marriage to keep me from sleeping hungry. Evan whispered something I'll never forget. I don't know what I did to deserve you. Nora exhaled. You chose to be good when being good didn't pay. Silence. Then Evan. What if she never recovers? What if she stays here? Nora didn't hesitate. Then she stays, she said. We'll figure it out. My eyes burned, not from the illness, from shame. Because the truth was sitting in my chest like a heavy stone. This test wasn't only judging my children, it was judging me. I had built a family that worshipped comfort, and I had contributed to it. I'd rewarded the loud ones, the successful ones, the ones who looked impressive, and I'd underestimated the only 2 people in this family who actually knew what love costs. I lay there in Nora's sweatshirt, in their bed, and the mask slipped just enough for the real pain to hit. A mother should never have to test her children's love. But I had, because I had started to fear something worse than dying. I feared becoming old, sick, and invisible in a family I financed, but couldn't trust. At 5:30 a.m., I slipped out of bed and pulled the burner phone from the pocket of my damp coat. My fingers trembled, not from cold, from decision. I dialed Mr. Hale. He answered on the second ring. Linda, he said, instantly alert. Are you safe? I'm safe, I whispered, staring at Evan and Nora asleep on the sofa like 2 exhausted soldiers. It's time, I said. 9 o'clock. Bring everything. A pause on the line. Once we do this, Mr. Hale warned. There's no going back. I stared at Nora's hand tangled with Evan's even in sleep. I know, I replied. That's the point. I hung up, and as the first gray light crept through the cheap curtains, I realized the next few hours would destroy the illusion my family lived inside. Because when the truth arrived at this little house, my children who slammed doors would finally learn what it feels like to have one slammed back. At 8:40 a.m., Nora was already awake, moving quietly through the kitchen like she didn't want to wake the whole world. She poured cheap coffee into chipped mugs. She cut toast in halves like it mattered. She kept glancing at me like she was trying to read something in my face. Evan came in, rubbing his neck, stiff from the sofa. "You should have taken the bed," I said softly. He shrugged. "It's fine." Nora didn't smile this time. She looked straight at me and said, "Something's off." My stomach tightened. I kept my expression calm. "What do you mean?" Nora's eyes narrowed, not accusing, observant. "You don't talk like someone who lost everything," she said quietly. "You're scared, yes. You're tired, yes. But you're controlled." Evan blinked. "Nora, no." Nora cut in gently. "I'm not attacking her. I'm saying some details don't add up." I held my mug with both hands to hide the tremor. Before I could answer, a sound rose outside. Tires on wet pavement, doors closing, multiple engines idling. Nora froze. Evan walked to the window and looked out. His face drained. 2 black SUVs sat at the curb like a scene from someone else's life. A man stepped out of the front vehicle in a tailored coat, briefcase in hand. Behind him, 4 men in dark suits moved with the calm posture of security. Evan turned to me, confused and scared. "Mom," he whispered. "Who are those people?" The air in the room changed. Nora's eyes snapped to mine. I had 2 choices: keep lying or let the truth detonate. The knock came, sharp, professional, final. I stood, my knees steady now without effort, and walked to the door. When I opened it, Mr. Hale's eyes widened for half a second at my poor clothes. Then his face snapped into respectful seriousness. "Ms. Harper," he said. "Are you ready?" Evan's mouth fell open. Nora's breath caught. I stepped aside. "Come in." Mr. Hale entered, followed by the suited men, who looked wildly out of place in the small living room with its worn sofa and laundry basket. Nora instinctively moved closer to Evan, protective. Mr. Hale set his briefcase on the table and opened it with quiet precision. He pulled out a folder, then another, bank statements, account summaries, legal documents. Evan stared at the pages like they were written in another language. Mr. Hale looked at me. "Everything is prepared." Nora's voice came out barely above a whisper. "Prepared? For what?" I looked at her, really looked. This woman I had dismissed. This woman who was willing to sell her rings. And I felt the shame rise again. "For the truth," I said. Evan stood, panicking. "Mom, what is happening?" I swallowed. Then I said it. "I didn't lose everything." Silence slammed down harder than any door. Evan's eyes widened. "What?" Nora didn't speak. She just stared at me like her mind was racing to catch up. Mr. Hale's tone remained calm, almost clinical. "Your mother's assets are intact," he said, looking between them. "Her accounts are secure. Her business holdings are stable." Evan looked like he might vomit. Nora's hand flew to her mouth. "You mean?" Evan started, voice shaking. "This was a test," I said. The word tasted awful. Nora's eyes glistened with tears, but her expression didn't harden into hatred the way I expected. Instead, she looked wounded, not because she was tricked, because she realized why I felt I had to do it. Evan's voice broke. "Why would you do that?" I took a breath. "Because I needed to know who would open a door when they thought I had nothing," I said quietly. Nora's shoulders rose and fell once, like she was bracing herself. Mr. Hale pulled out another sheet. "There's more," he said. "At Ms. Harper's request, I contacted your siblings." Evan flinched. "Graham, Tessa, and Briggs have been informed there is urgent information about your mother's condition," Mr. Hale continued. "They confirmed they would come here at 10. 10. The number landed in the room like a countdown timer. Evan's face twisted. "They're coming here? To my house?" I nodded. "Yes." Nora finally spoke, voice shaking but steady. "You planned a confrontation. Here." I didn't deny it, because the truth was, this house was the only place love showed up without conditions, and I wanted my other children to have to look at it. Evan ran a hand through his hair, frantic. "Mom, this is too much," he whispered. "I don't want—" "I know," I interrupted softly. "You didn't ask for any of this." Nora stepped forward, her eyes locked on mine. "I suspected," she said quietly. I blinked. "You did?" Nora nodded once. "Your posture," she whispered. "The way you observe. The way you don't panic the way truly helpless people panic." She swallowed. "But I decided it didn't matter." My chest tightened. Nora's voice cracked. "Because even if this was a test, the right answer was the same," she said. "Open the door." Evan's eyes filled with tears again. And we were going to sell our rings, he whispered, devastated. I felt something in me collapse. I know, I said hoarsely. I heard you. Nora's eyes flashed, not anger, pain. You heard? She whispered. I nodded. And that's why what happens next matters, I said. Mr. Hale placed a document on the table, face down, like a loaded weapon he hadn't fired yet. My client initially instructed me to bring paperwork to revise her estate plan, he said calmly. Evan froze. Estate plan? Nora's breath caught. Mr. Hale looked at me. Do you want me to state it now? I stared at the face-down paper. Because on that paper were consequences. Real consequences. The kind that make people beg once money is involved. And at 9:58 a.m., outside, the sound of an expensive engine rolled onto the street. Smooth, confident, entitled. Then another. Evan looked out the window. His face went pale. They're here, he whispered. Nora grabbed his hand. And I stood in the middle of their tiny living room, wearing borrowed clothes with my lawyer and security behind me, waiting for my 3 successful children to walk through the same door they refused to open for me. The knock came. Hard, impatient, like they owned the moment. Evan swallowed. I lifted my chin, and I said very calmly, "Open it." Evan hesitated, then reached for the handle. The door swung open, and Graham's voice hit the room like poison wrapped in confidence. Okay, what is this about? I have places to be. His words died as his eyes landed on Mr. Hale. Then the security men. Then me, sitting warm in Evan's house. And for the first time in his life, my oldest son looked at me and realized he wasn't in control anymore. Graham walked in first. No hello, no permission. He crossed Evan's threshold like it was his conference room, not his younger brother's living room. Tessa followed behind him in oversized sunglasses and an expensive coat that looked wrong against peeling paint and a modest street. Briggs came last, checking his watch like this was an inconvenience he planned to bill someone for. All 3 stopped when they saw Mr. Hale's briefcase and the suited security men standing quietly near the wall. Their confidence stumbled. For half a second, nobody spoke. Then Graham tried to grab control with his voice. Okay, he said, forcing a laugh. What is this? Why are there guards here? Tessa angled her chin toward Evan and Nora as if the whole house offended her. Mom, she said, sweet and fake. We were told something happened. Are you okay? Briggs stepped forward, brows tight, eyes fixed on my borrowed sweatshirt. Why are you dressed like that? He asked. Did you get help? Help. He said the word like a favor he never intended to offer. Evan stood near the door, shoulders tense. Nora's hand was wrapped around his like she was anchoring him. I lifted my chin and spoke softly, because calm is what makes selfish people tremble. I knocked on your doors. Silence. Graham blinked. What? I stepped farther into the center of the room so no one could pretend they didn't hear. I knocked on your doors, I repeated. Sick. Broke. Alone. I asked for one night. Tessa let out a nervous little laugh. This is a misunderstanding. Is it? I cut in, steady. Because the first door that slammed in my face was yours, Graham. Graham's jaw hardened. Mom, you... He started. I didn't let him finish. You opened the door just long enough to see me, I said. Then you looked over my shoulder, checking who might be watching, before you locked me out. Graham spread his hands, defensive. I didn't know it was you. You looked like nothing, I finished for him. Like someone you could ignore. Tessa stepped forward, voice sharper now. This is insane, she snapped. If you were sick, you should have called. You can't just show up. I did call, I said. I called you with my body standing in the rain on your porch. Tessa's face tightened. You opened the door a crack, I continued, and the first thing you said was, people will see you. The color drained from her cheeks. Mom, that's not... Then you slid an envelope into my hand, I said. Cash, a shelter number, and you begged me not to come back like that. Tessa's mouth opened and closed. She looked at Briggs like she wanted backup. Briggs did what Briggs always did, turned shame into an argument. Okay, but you set us up, he said. That's manipulative. That's... I inhaled slowly. Then I pointed at him. And you, I said quietly, pressed a bill into my hand like I was a stray. You told me to get a motel because you had people here. Briggs flushed. I have a life, he snapped. I have responsibilities. You can't just drop your mother, I corrected, my voice lower and colder. You can't drop your mother at the curb because she's inconvenient. Graham tried to escape with sarcasm. So what is this? He scoffed. A guilt trip? You want us to apologize? Fine. Sorry. Happy? Mr. Hale moved one folder on the table with professional calm. Not a guilt trip, he said. A legal matter. Graham's smirk faltered. Briggs went alert. Tessa went rigid. Mr. Hale opened the briefcase and placed documents neatly on the table. Account summaries, asset statements, signed papers. Then he said clearly, for everyone to hear, Ms. Harper is not bankrupt. Her accounts are intact. Her assets are secure. The air left the room. Tessa clutched her chest. What? Graham muttered. No, that's... but couldn't finish. Briggs went still, like his brain was recalculating everything. I didn't move. Everything you saw, I said, was a test. Tessa exploded. A test? She yelled. You pretended to be sick and broke. Are you out of your mind? I held my ground. I pretended, I said, to see if any of you would still treat a human being with dignity when there was nothing to gain. Graham spat the word like an insult. So you tricked us. No, I said. I revealed you. Briggs pointed at Evan and Nora, trying to regain power. And they knew? He accused. They were in on it? Evan opened his mouth, but Nora spoke first. Her voice was steady. No shouting, no shaking. I suspected, she said, but I decided it didn't matter. Tessa laughed bitterly. Of course, because now she gets to look like a saint. Nora took a step forward, eyes bright. You want to know the worst part? She asked, calm. We were going to sell our rings. Silence hit like a wall. Evan dropped his gaze, ashamed, not of kindness, but of being exposed in it. Nora pointed at the three of them, one by one. You had warm beds, she said. Food, space. And when your mother knocked, you gave her excuses. Graham tried again. We didn't know it was her. Nora cut him off. That's the point. Then she said the sentence that split the room clean in half. You didn't have compassion until you knew there was money behind her name. Tessa went pale. Briggs clenched his jaw. Mr. Hale slid one page forward, the one he'd kept face down like a weapon he hadn't fired yet, then turned it over. The moment their eyes caught the heading, their faces changed. Fear. Real fear. Mr. Hale's voice remained calm. My client initially instructed me to revise her estate plan this morning. Tessa gasped. Mom! Graham tried to laugh it off. That's dramatic. Briggs went straight for the throat. Are you cutting us out? I looked at Evan, then at Nora, then back at the three children who had slammed doors on me, and I said very evenly, Listen carefully. I'm not here to scream. I'm here to end the illusion. I nodded once at Mr. Hale. He read the first line. The allowances stopped today. Tessa's eyes widened. What? Graham's voice rose. You can't... Yes, I said, still calm. I can. Briggs leaned forward, cold. So this is punishment. This is consequence, Nora said quietly. I lifted my hand, one small gesture that silenced the room. Graham, I said, you measured my worth by who might see me. Tessa, you measured me by how I looked on your porch. Briggs, you measured me by how quickly you could get rid of me. Their faces tightened. But Evan and Nora, I continued, measured me by one thing only. Whether I was safe. Tessa's voice cracked. We're sorry. Today you're sorry, I replied, because you found out I'm not broke. Silence. Mr. Hale tapped another document. There are conditions, he said. If Ms. Harper is to consider restoring financial support or inheritance eligibility. Graham snapped. Inheritance eligibility? That single phrase exposed them more than any lecture ever could. Nora didn't flinch. Evan's voice came out low, wounded. You didn't even ask if she was okay, he said. You asked if she was cutting you out. Graham's face hardened. Don't play saint, Evan. Evan stepped forward, shaking, finally letting years of swallowing disrespect come out. I'm not playing anything, he said. I'm standing in my own house, watching you prove exactly who you are. Tessa's tears started, big and dramatic. Mom, please, she begged. I panicked. I didn't know. You didn't know it was me, I said. But you knew I was sick. Briggs tried the last defense of the entitled. You're being cruel. I smiled, small, controlled, almost sad. No, I said. Cruel is locking a door on a sick woman because she might embarrass you. And then I nodded toward the front window. Outside, neighbors were watching. Not because I made a scene, but because 3 luxury cars looked ridiculous on this street. I brought you here, I said, because you respect appearances. I leaned in, voice quieter. So I'm going to let appearances teach you something. Mr. Hale placed a clean sheet on the table. Not a will, a contract. Ms. Harper asked for a framework, he said. A path forward. Graham scoffed. We don't need a contract to be family. Nora looked at him like he was a child. You needed money to remember she was family. she said. Graham's mouth snapped shut. Mr. Hale continued, steady as a metronome. Condition 1, therapy, weekly, all parties present. Miss a session without a verified emergency, and the financial restoration clause is void. Tessa whispered. Therapy? Yes, I said. Not because you're evil, because you're trained. And you were trained badly. By me too. That landed harder than anger. Briggs tried to bargain. Okay, fine. Therapy? What else? Mr. Hale didn't blink. Condition 2, service, real service. You will volunteer monthly with organizations serving the elderly and the unhoused. Documented hours. Tessa shook her head. Mom, that's humiliating. That's the point, I said. Graham's face twisted. So you want revenge? I looked at him with tired clarity. No, I said. I want correction. You need to learn what it feels like to look at a vulnerable person and still see a human being. Mr. Hale read the next line. Condition 3, Evan and Nora are to receive a formal apology, written and spoken, acknowledging years of contempt, dismissiveness, and ridicule. Briggs laughed once, sharp. We didn't ridicule them. Evan's eyes flashed. You called me soft, he said. You called my life small. You treated my wife like she was invisible. Tessa swallowed. I didn't... Nora held up a hand. You don't have to rewrite history, she said softly. Just don't deny mine. Mr. Hale tapped the final paragraph. And lastly, no allowances, no bailouts, no quick loans. If Ms. Harper chooses to help in the future, it will be through structured, transparent support, not emotional leverage. Graham stared at the paper like it insulted him. So we have to earn it, he said. Earn being her children. I answered before Nora could. You have always been my children, I said. But you treated me like a wallet. Silence. Tessa's tears got quieter, more real now. Mom, she whispered. I was scared. Of what? I asked. She hesitated, then admitted it. Of being seen, she said. Of the neighbors. Of everything. I nodded once. That fear runs your life, I said gently. And it ran your love. That's why we're here. Briggs looked at Evan and Nora, then at me, voice tight. And what do they get? He asked. Because this whole thing, this whole performance, ends with them looking perfect. I turned to him, and I spoke the truth that made his eyes flicker. They get recognition, I said. Not because they won, because they were real when no one was watching. Mr. Hale opened a second folder. Evan stiffened, alarm rising again. Mom, no, he whispered. Please don't. I held up a hand. This isn't to buy you, I said. You can't buy what you just gave me. I nodded to Mr. Hale. He placed a document in front of Evan, clean, official, stamped. A property deed, Mr. Hale said. A small home, closer to Evan's school and Nora's work with a safe yard. Purchased and titled in Evan's name, with Nora as co-owner. Evan's hands shook. Nora froze. Then her eyes filled, but she didn't collapse. She just stared at the page like she didn't believe good things could happen without strings. Tessa's voice rose, sharp again. A house? Graham's face darkened. So you reward them and punish us. I didn't raise my voice. You already have houses, I said. Houses I helped you buy. Years of support you treated like entitlement. Evan never asked. Nora never asked. They gave. Briggs's jaw flexed. This is unfair. I leaned forward slightly. No, I said. Unfair is a mother standing in the rain, sick and shaking, and being treated like a threat to your image. That shut him up. Nora finally spoke, voice small. We don't want to take anything from you, she said to me. We didn't open the door for... I know, I whispered. That's why you deserve to receive without guilt. Evan shook his head, overwhelmed. Mom, I don't know what to say. I reached for his hand. Say you'll keep being who you are, I said, even when the world tries to shame you for it. He nodded, tears slipping free. Graham cleared his throat, trying to reclaim dignity. So what now? He demanded. We sign this and everything goes back to normal? I looked at him. Really looked. There is no normal to return to, I said quietly. Only a new truth. Mr. Hale slid pens across the table. Tessa hesitated, then signed with shaking fingers. Briggs signed like he was swallowing nails. Graham stared at the paper, pride fighting survival. Then he signed too. When it was done, the room didn't feel healed. It felt honest. That's rarer. As they turned to leave, Tessa paused at the doorway. Her voice was softer. Mom, she said. Do you hate us now? I didn't answer with comfort. I answered with reality. I'm hurt, I said. And it will take time. She nodded, eyes wet. Graham walked out without looking at Evan. Briggs followed, stiff and silent. Tessa lingered a half second more, then left, her heels clicking on the porch like a reminder of how hard she tried to look unshaken. When the SUVs and luxury cars finally pulled away, the street went quiet again. Evan sank onto the old sofa like his body had been holding up a building. Nora sat beside him, exhausted. I sat across from them, hands folded. "I owe you an apology," I said to Nora. Her eyes lifted. "I hated you," I admitted. "Because you didn't fit my idea of enough," Nora swallowed. "And you opened the door anyway," I said. "You showed me what enough actually looks like." Nora's voice came out rough. "Sometimes people hate what they can't control," she said. I didn't take it personally anymore. I just kept loving Evan. That sentence hit me like medicine. Not sweet. Healing. I nodded. "And I'm going to keep loving you," I said. "Without testing, without games, without making you prove it." Evan exhaled, long and shaky. "We'll be okay," he whispered. "Right?" I looked at the door, the same door that opened when I had nothing. And I said the last truth, the one that mattered more than money, more than inheritance, more than papers. "Yes," I said, "because real family doesn't ask what you have, it asks if you're safe." And in that small house on that worn sofa, I finally understood something I should have learned years ago. Money can buy a house, but it can't buy a door that opens when you need it most.